Hey guys, it's Shamsa and welcome back to my little kitchen. Today's recipe is a highly requested one. We're diving straight into the kitchens of the Mughal Empire, Nihari. This dish is a slow cooked, melt in your mouth recipe, and this is just phenomenal. You're gonna love this, made with lamb shanks, and honestly this is probably one of the national dishes, if not the national dish of Pakistan, and I can't wait to share this recipe with you. And now, before I tuck into this and tell you guys exactly how it is, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn your bell notification on for fantastic recipes like these, which are easy to follow but taste brilliant. And now for the taste test. Oh, sorry, before I do that, I'm going to squeeze some lemon juice straight over like that. But here goes. And I'm serving mine up with some fresh naan, because Nihari goes with naan perfectly. Now, just dunk that naan into that thick gravy, and just look at that. Oh, absolutely wonderful. Okay, here goes. Absolutely out of this world. Fantastic, amazing, phenomenal. There is so much flavour coming through because it was slow cooked. Spices are spot on. Salt perfect to my liking. If you want to add more, by all means go ahead and do that. You can do that once it's finished cooking. Slight kick coming through from the chilli that we added, and the overall flavour coming through from that special Nihari masala is just, oh, that's it, brilliant. Try it, let me know how you find it, and leave me a comment below. And I'll catch you soon with a new one, and let's start cooking. So the ingredients you're going to need is lamb shanks. Now I've got here 1.2 kilograms of lamb shanks. Now I purchased mine from Farm Foods, and they have a huge range of halal meat, which they do. You can purchase it from any local butcher, any supermarket, and if you really wanted to, you can make them with mutton. You could use beef, which traditionally Nihari is made using beef shanks, but I'm using lamb today. And if you have a pot big enough to accommodate this, brilliant. If you don't, the other thing you can do is, if you really wanted to make this, you can have them chopped up into chunky pieces and use that as well, because that will just fit into your pot quite easily and they're more manageable. Right, okay, so now we have here a medium onion, which I've finely diced. This weighs 200 grams in weight. I've got here 1 whole cup of clarified butter, which I made, and I'm using clarified butter because it gives Nihari that authentic Nihari taste. You can use whichever oil you want, that's entirely up to you. This is approximately 250 millilitres, and I will leave a link in my description box for you guys if you don't know how to clarify butter. It's really easy. I've got here 3 frozen pieces of ginger and garlic. I've got 2 pieces of garlic and 1 of frozen ginger. If you don't have these cubes, then substitute each cube for 1 tablespoon's worth of the paste or puree. And I've got these spices. I've got 2 tablespoons of Kashmiri chilli powder, which is going to add a nice sort of like colour and flavour, but not the heat. I've got 1.5 teaspoons of salt. I've got 1 teaspoon of regular chilli powder and half a teaspoon of turmeric powder. And we've got some essential spices that go into our Nihari. And for that, you'll need 1 heaped tablespoon of coriander seeds, cumin seeds and fennel seeds. And all we're going to do is we're going to grind them to a powder. And I've also got here half a teaspoon of dried ginger powder. Now, because I had the powder version and not the actual dried ginger, I've just measured out half a teaspoon's worth, which once I've ground these spices, I'll add that into that. And the other all essential Nihari masala is these following whole spices, which I'm going to go through with you. Now, I've got 3 long peppers. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen these before, but they are these long peppers. That's what they're called. In Urdu, Punjabi, they're called pipli. And if you can get hold of these, then fantastic, because this is what's going to add that authentic flavour to the Nihari. You can't make Nihari without them. Well, you can, but obviously it's not going to taste like Nihari. And I've got 3 of these long peppers. I will leave a link in the description box for you guys if you want to check out my affiliate account, because I do have these little peppers on there, and do purchase them because I I would highly recommend that you add them in. If you're making this dish, it's definitely worth adding these in. I've got here 1 small star anise. I've got 2 black cardamom pods. I've got 1 teaspoon of black peppercorns, 2 cinnamon sticks roughly the size of my thumb. I've got 4 bay leaves, and because I've got powder versions of nutmeg and mace, I've got 1/4 of a teaspoon each. Again, we're going to grind this down to a powder, and then I'm going to introduce the ground nutmeg and mace into that as well. This is the all essential Nihari masala, has to be added into this. And we also need water to use as and when we need to. And I've also got here 90 grams of wholemeal chapati flour, which is going to be the sort of like the thickening agent to this. You have to add this in. Nihari has this in. It again gives you the strength, the you know, the flavour of, you know, the Nihari is thickened with this kind of flour. If you don't have chapati flour, you can use plain flour. You can also use chickpea flour, but just bear in mind, chickpea flour you have to roast first, and then obviously you know, follow the steps on how to add this in, which I'll show you. But yes, let's start cooking. Right, okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go off and I'm going to grind my 2 sets of spices and just set them aside. And once that's done, I'll show you what you need to do next. Right, okay, so I've ground my whole spices. The first one, the coriander seeds, fennel and cumin seeds, and into that I'm going to add the dry ginger powder and just set that aside. And then the second set of spices, which was the Nihari masala, I'm going to add my ground nutmeg and mace into that as well, and just set that aside. Give that a mix and just set it aside. And now we're going to move on to the next step of the recipe. Right, okay, so I've got my pot on the hob. Heat setting is on 6. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my clarified butter in and just give that a few minutes to heat up. And then I'm going to add my onions, and we're going to fry them until they're nice and lightly golden brown in colour, not too dark, but just lightly golden brown. And that should take approximately 8 to 10 minutes. I'm just going to turn my heat setting up to a 7, which is a medium to high heat setting. And just keep an eye on these onions, and I'll show you how they look once they're done. Right, okay, so it's been around 10 minutes that I've been frying the onions, and they've taken on a really nice light golden brown colour. Let me just show you all. So that is the colour you're looking for. And into this I'm just going to add my defrosted garlic and ginger paste and just give that a minute or so to fry off the rawness. And this will also stop the onions from cooking any further. Okay, I've just lowered my heat setting because the camera was steaming over, and I'm now going to add my lamb shanks in. So just lift them up and just add them in like that. And I'm going to turn my heat setting back up to a 7 now again, which is a medium high heat setting for my hob. And we're just going to cook the shanks now, just brown them off a little for around 6 to 8 minutes. And just keep stirring them and allow them to get a little bit of a colour on them, and I'll show you how they look in around 8 minutes time. Right, okay, so it's been around 8 minutes that I've been cooking the shanks, and they've taken on a light brown colour, as you can see. Now into this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of water. Turn my heat setting down. And then I'm going to go in with my spices. Just add that in. Give it a mix. So the water was added in to prevent the spices from burning. And just cook this for about a minute or 2. My heat setting is currently on a 4 because the camera keeps steaming over and you won't be able to see. Right, okay, so now I'm going to add the first set of spices in that we ground to a powder, which was the fennel, coriander, cumin and ginger, which I mixed in. So I'm going to add that in as well. Just give that a mix. Right, okay, so now we're going to add our second set of spices, which is the Nihari masala. So just to add all of that in as well and just give it a mix and just stir that through. Again, give that a minute or so. And now into this, I'm going to add 2 litres of water, just straight in, just like that. That's 1 litre, and the second litre of water going in. Perfect. And I'm just going to turn my hob settings to full, which is a 9 setting for my hob. Just give that a stir. Right, okay, so I'm going to allow this to come up to the boil, and then I'll show you what you need to do next. Right, okay, so the water has come up to the boil. I've reduced my hob setting down to a 4, which is a low heat setting for my hob. Now all we need to do is just pop the lid on and let this cook away now for approximately 2 to 2.5 hours. All depends on the size of your shanks. If your shanks are slightly bigger, then obviously the cooking time will just be a little longer. And again, if they're smaller, then the cooking time will be slightly shorter. But mine will take approximately 2 to 2.5 hours, and you don't need to do anything to this. I mean, if you wanted to, you could come around and just give it the odd occasional stir, which I will be doing because obviously my shanks are slightly bigger and they're not fully submerged in the water, so I will turn them around after an hour or so, just so they get even cooking all over. But other than that, you don't need to do anything. Right guys, coming back to the Nihari, it's been cooking away for 2 hours now. I have been turning it around in between those 2 hours, so the shanks obviously get even cooking all the way around. And I'm just going to remove one to show you, like that. And the meat is kind of cooked all the way through. It's fully cooked, but it's not to the point where it's falling off the bone. So what I'm going to do now is just put them back in again and give them a further 30 minutes of cooking. And after 30 minutes, I'm going to show you what you need to do. So just leave it as it is, pop the lid back on again, and I'll see you guys in 30 minutes time. Right, okay, so I'm just coming back to the Nihari. It's had the extra half an hour. So the full cooking time for this was 2.5 hours. Now I'm just going to turn my hob off at this point, and the next step is to take off this butter, the ghee, or the oil that you're using. Now it's essential that we take this off. This is actually called the slurry in Urdu, and it's also known as rogan as well. And what you do is you take that, skim that off and just set that aside, and then when you come to serve Nihari, you just add that on top as an extra, and that is what gives that Nihari that wonderful, you know, authentic, hearty look. And I'm going to do that now. So I'm just going to take my ladle and I'm just going to skim off as much as I can. Just move the shanks out the way. So just gently go around and do that. And there we are. I've taken off as much as I wanted to, and I'm just going to set that aside to garnish the dish later when we plate up. Right, so the next step of the Nihari is to make the flour mixture to go into the Nihari to thicken it up. And to do that, I've just got myself a jug, and I'm going to add my flour straight into that. And then using a whisk, I'm going to add my water in, and we're going to whisk it until we have a smooth runny sort of like batter, and add a little bit in at first and just give it a mix and make sure there's no clumps, because if this batter is smooth, then this will ensure that there are no clumps in the Nihari when you add it in. So make sure you really whisk that well. And I'm just gonna finish off. This was 1 cup of water, which was 250 millilitres that I added in, and you can see that the mixture is like a really wet batter. And I'm just going to move my camera over to show you what you need to do with this. Right, what I'm going to do next is, before we add our slurry that we made with our chapati flour and water, I'm actually going to take my shanks out, because I don't want the meat to fall off or break whilst I'm actually putting the slurry in to thicken the sauce. So I'm just going to gently just take them out. I'm going to reintroduce them later once the sauce is done. Right, okay, so coming back to this is bubbling away now. It's on heat setting 4, which is a low heat setting for my hob. And now what we're going to do is we're going to slowly add our flour mixture slurry into this and keep stirring, small amounts at a time, and keep stirring. And you know, if you stop stirring, this is going to get clumpy in there. So add it in, and add however much you want to add it in. All depends on how you like the thickness of your Nihari sauce. So it all depends on you guys. But add like this, small amounts, and just keep stirring, and this will thicken the sauce. So I like a sauce which is not too runny and not too thick, so an in-between one. And again, when this starts cooking, this will thicken as well. So just add that in, keep stirring until you've used up all of it, because that's how I like mine. Like so. And just stir that for a few more minutes and just let it come up to heat again and start bubbling. Just going to turn my heat setting up a little bit, which is on 6, just to allow this to come up to temperature. Right, okay, so it's come up to the boil now. I've just reduced my heat setting down to a 4, which is a low heat setting for my hob. And I'm just going to try the salt levels in here because I did add less salt. So, okay, it could do with a little bit more salt. The spice, the chili is perfect. There's a slight heat coming through. I'm just going to go in with half a teaspoon of salt more. There we are. And just give that a mix and just see. Just try that again. That's perfect for me. So in total, we've added 2 teaspoons of salt in there. And now we introduce our shanks back in like that. And all the juice as well. And now what we're going to do is we're going to pop the lid on and we're going to cook this for a further 30 minutes. Now the reason for us cooking this for a further 30 minutes is that flour that we added in, the slurry, that's going to get cooked in there and obviously do its magic, and after 30 minutes it'll be ready. The meat is all, you know, it's fully cooked, but it'll give it a further 30 more minutes of cooking and it'll become super tender but still holding its shape. So I'll catch you guys in around 30 minutes time when this nihari will be ready to plate up, and I'll show you how to do that. Right, okay, so the 30 minutes are up and I'm going to remove the lid to show you, and just look how wonderful the nihari looks. The gravy is nice and thick as I like it, and the meat is literally just now falling apart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plate this up and I'm going to show you how I serve it and how traditionally nihari is served. So I'm going to go off and do that and I'll show you exactly how it looks.